stop. Before you think about white clothes, fireworks, lentils, grapes, sparkling wine, and countdown, stop. I need you to listen to me with an open heart, because this message is not about embellishment. It's about survival. It's about health. It's about your body crossing the turn of the year without carrying an invisible sentence. Few know. But Archangel Miguel does not observe the passing of the year as a simple calendar. For Miguel, the threshold of the year is a portal, a point of decision, a spiritual line that separates what you tolerated last year from what you consecrate for the coming year. And do you know what altar almost no one respects? The table. Yes, the table. The table of the turn of the year is not just food. The table is language. The table is declaration. The table is the place where you say to the invisible, "This is what I accept to feed. This is what I accept to bring inside. This is what I accept to repeat." And when you declare wrongly, the body pays. Not because God punishes, but because spiritual disorder always spills over into the flesh. I will reveal to you, clearly and without circumlocution, what to put on the New Year's table to have health. And I will give this to you in the form of a collection so you don't get lost. There are 5 things, 5 signs, 5 gestures, 5 decisions. And I need you to stay until the end, because the 5th thing is the most dangerous when it's missing. It is the most ignored. And it is precisely it that makes people enter the turn of the year smiling and spend Janeiro and Febrero with their bodies falling apart without understanding the reason. Write in the comments now, "Miguel, consecrate my table." It's not superstition. It's agreement. It's an act of spiritual authority within your home. And if you can, share with someone who always gets sick after Réveillon. Maybe it's not bad luck. Maybe it's an open door. Breathe and listen. Because you can put grapes and still enter with resentment. You can put lentils and still enter with fear. You can put pomegranate and still enter with anxiety. And the table, when it is beautiful on the outside and at war on the inside, turns into a divided altar. And a divided altar does not sustain health. Miguel did not come to scare you. Miguel came to align you. And to align is to close doors, doors of disorder, doors of excess, doors of words that hurt, doors of sleepless nights, doors of anxiety that no one sees. Now let's go to the list. 5 things. Write them down. And do them before midnight. Before I get to the first thing, I need to ask you a cutting question. What is the atmosphere in your home when the food arrives? Because there are people who set the table, but place, along with the dishes, the cell phone as an idol, haste as owner, and comparison as a guest. And then, at the turn of the year, the body does not celebrate. The body survives. Do a test now. If you imagine your table and feel a tightness in your chest, that is already a sign. The chest does not tighten because of the grape. It tightens because of what is hidden. That's why Miguel starts with internal order, not external superstition. And another thing, don't start the year with jokes that humiliate. Don't start with provocations about weight, money, marriage, work, faith. This seems small, but it's a thin knife. A thin knife opens a wound, and the body inflames. Stay with me until the end. I will show you the 5 things, but I will also show you where most people err. They put items on the table, but they don't put peace in their tone. And I will repeat. The 5th thing is the most decisive. If you are at a big party, do this discreetly. Choose a corner, breathe, and set aside a minute to consecrate. A minute changes the night. And a night changes the month, and a month changes the entire year. Thing 1, silence and gratitude with a glass of clean water. I start with what almost no one wants to hear. Before any food, your table needs silence, not sad silence, holy silence, silence that gathers, silence that puts the heart in its place. Do you know why? Because many people enter the new year with their body already in a state of alert. Tight jaw, stiff shoulder, short breath, accelerated heart. And then they say, "I don't know why I got sick." Yes, you do. You just didn't name it. You got sick because you crossed a portal screaming inside. Silence is the first spiritual medicine for the body, and gratitude is the first vitamin for the soul. When you place a glass of clean water on the table and decide to remain silent for a few seconds, you are saying, "I do not enter the new year at war with myself. I do not enter the new year at war with the world. I enter with clarity." Water is a witness. Water holds memory. and your body is made of water. Therefore, a glass of clean water on the table of the turn of the year is like a mirror. It reflects whether your home is clean inside. It's no use having crystal and porcelain if the mind is cloudy. Make the gesture. Before the first toast, touch the glass with your hand. Close your eyes. Stay 20 seconds without speaking. Just 20. And within that silence, say inwardly, Miguel, may my body receive peace. Now, pay attention to this detail. Silence is not just the absence of speech. It is the absence of attack. There are people who spend the turn of the year attacking their own body, I gained weight, attacking their own life, my year was horrible, attacking their own faith, nothing changed. And each attack is an arrow. The body feels it, the stomach closes, immunity drops, sleep breaks, micro-scene. The house is full. Someone puts on loud music, everyone laughs, but there is one person who is not there. She is in thought. She is reliving a humiliation. She is thinking about the money that was missing. She is thinking about the illness she went through. And she smiles so as not to spoil the mood. But the mood is already spoiled inside her. When midnight arrives, she pops a sparkling wine and feels a lump in her throat. Days later, her throat inflames. She says, I caught a virus. Perhaps. But perhaps she caught the consequence of crossing the portal with her chest at war. Silence and gratitude prevent this. Gratitude is not pretending it was easy. Gratitude is recognizing that you survived. Gratitude is saying, I am still here. That's why Miguel asks for a simple phrase after the silence. Thank you for life. That's all. No speech needed. One phrase changes the field. And here's a hammer. Before midnight, don't use your table to complain. Don't use your table to make a list of defeats. Don't use your table to repeat tragedies. The table is an altar, and an altar is not a stage for despair. If someone wants to argue, respond calmly. Not today. If someone wants to speak ill, respond, let's bless. You don't need to fight, you just need to close the door. And if you are alone, even more so. Loneliness at the turn of the year can turn into poison when you abandon yourself. So make the silence, touch the water and say, I am not alone. Miguel guards my crossing. When you place silence and gratitude on the table, you are placing the first thing that generates health. Peace in the nervous system, peace in the body, peace in the blood. And without peace, no food becomes a blessing. It becomes a burden. Remember, the year begins in your breath, and your breath begins in your silence. Thing 2. Simple bread to break, humility that deflames. After silence and gratitude, Miguel asks you for a symbol that seems small but is a key. Bread. And it doesn't have to be expensive bread, full of embellishments. On the contrary, simple bread is the most powerful, because it doesn't compete with anyone. It nourishes. Bread on the New Year's table is a reminder that health begins when the soul stops wanting to control everything. Too much control turns into tension. Tension turns into rigidity. Rigidity turns into inflammation. Inflammation turns into silent disease. And silent disease is the one you only notice when you are tired all the time. When you break bread with your hands, you are saying to heaven, I accept to depend, I accept to share, I accept not to be the center. This heals a part of the heart that lives in alert, trying to guarantee everything alone. Gesture. Take the bread, break it slowly, as if untying a knot, and offer it first to someone. If you have family, offer it to the most forgotten person at the table. The quiet child, the elderly person, the one no one asks how they are. If you live alone, offer it to God and offer it to yourself. Yes, to yourself. Because there are people who don't even offer themselves a piece of tenderness. Say, as you break it, may this year I have sustenance and health, and then say, may I learn to receive. Microscene. You know the perfect table, everything aligned, beautiful dishes, photos to post. But underneath this, there is a demand. If I don't do everything perfectly, no one loves me. This demand is poison. It makes the heart beat wrongly. It makes the stomach burn. It makes the body stay on alert even when it is resting. And then the person says, I don't sleep well. Of course not. She sleeps defending her own existence. Simple bread breaks the theater. It says I don't need to prove anything to deserve health. Health is not a prize for performance. Health is the fruit of inner order. And here is Miguel's warning. Do not place on the table of the turn of the year a bread that represents pride. Do not place a bread that is a symbol of dispute, of comparison, of envy, because envy is a flame that consumes from within. And where there is envy, the body lives acidic. You might be thinking, but how can bread heal? It heals because it changes posture, inner posture. When you break the bread and bless it, you place yourself in a position of gratitude and sharing, and the body understands this as security. Make one more gesture. After you break the bread, choose a small part and leave it next to the glass of water. This is a sign of alliance, water and bread, clarity and sustenance, mind and body. And say, may my mind and my body walk together this year. Before midnight, do not start the year with excess. Start with simplicity. Excess is a party that charges interest. Simplicity is a party that blesses without charging. And if someone laughs at you, don't argue, just do it. The table is not to convince others, it is to consecrate your home. Miguel works with those who decide in silence. Thing 3, a touch of bitter discernment that protects the body. Now comes the surprising part. Miguel asks you to place something bitter, small and simple on the table. It can be a piece of lemon. It can be a leaf of arugula or chicory. It can be a sip of stronger tea. It is not to suffer, it is to remember. Why bitter? Because bitter teaches limits, and limits are health. Many people enter the new year as if life were only sweet, only promises, only euphoria. Euphoria is dangerous when it replaces reality, because when euphoria falls, the body falls with it. And the body truly falls. Unregulated glucose, broken sleep, triggered anxiety, compulsions returning. The bitter is a teacher. It says, not everything that is pleasurable is good for you. It says, I can say no. And the first no of the new year, when it is honest, saves months of wear and tear. Gesture. Before midnight, touch the bitter to your tongue for 1 second. 1 second. And ask an intimate question without theatrics. What do I need to cut for my body to breathe? Perhaps the answer will come as a simple word. Sugar, drink, sleepless nights, arguments, self-sabotage, people who drain, guilt. You don't need to solve everything at the turn of the year, you just need to recognize. Recognizing is the first cut. Micro scene. A man promises change with tears. He hugs everyone. He says, this year I will take care of myself. But on January 3rd, he is already repeating the same excess, sleeps late, eats badly, gets stressed, fights. And at the end of Janeiro, he is exhausted. He says, I don't know why. Yes, he does. He entered the year with sweetness and without limits. He entered with celebration and without discernment. The bitter would have reminded him, health requires renunciation. Health requires discipline. And do not confuse discipline with harshness. Discipline is well-directed love. It is saying, I love myself enough to protect myself. Miguel does not want you to be rigid. Miguel wants you to be lucid. Here's another point. The bitter is also a sign of humility. It reminds you that not every path is easy, but it is true. And many cures begin when a person accepts a small discomfort to abandon a great poison. If you want to seal this, make one more gesture. After touching the bitter, pick up the glass of water and take a small sip. This says to your body, I accept the limit, and I return to clarity. Bitter and water. Discernment and peace. This is health. And before midnight, choose a phrase to repeat when temptation comes during the year. Miguel, give me discernment. Short, direct. Because the battle of the body many times begins in the mind, and the mind needs command. If you place the bitter on the table, you are placing an invisible guardian against excess, and excess is a disease disguised as joy. Thing 4. Salt and oil. Order and anointing to close gaps. The fourth thing Miguel tells you to put on the table is a duo, salt and oil. And I know someone will say that's superstition. It's not. It's an ancient symbol. It's a spiritual language that has crossed centuries because it works as a reminder of order. Salt preserves. Salt prevents food from spoiling quickly. In the invisible, salt is the symbol of alliance and limits. It says, "Not here." It says, "This does not enter." It says, "This house has boundaries." And many people get sick because they live without boundaries. They accept everything, swallow everything, tolerate everything, silence everything. The body one day explodes. Oil, on the other hand, is anointing. It is healing. It is repair. Oil is the symbol that the wound does not need to become an identity. It is the symbol that what was broken can be treated, not hidden. Gesture. Place a small container with salt and another with oil on the table without ostentation. Before midnight, touch a finger to the salt and then to the oil. Make a small sign on the palm of your hand or on your forehead discreetly and say, "Miguel, seal my house with order and healing." No one needs to see. Heaven sees. Micro-scene, a beautiful house but full of indirect comments. A house where people love each other but hurt each other all the time. A house where everything turns into jokes but the jokes hurt. In Janeiro, a person starts to have pains, palpitations, high blood pressure, skin crises, hair loss, and the exams say stress. Yes, stress is a polite word for war. War inside the house, war inside the mind, war inside the chest. Salt closes the door of permissiveness. Oil opens the door of repair. You need both. Order without healing turns into harshness. Healing without order turns into repetition. Miguel gives you balance, and here is the surgical part. Salt and oil do not work if you use the table to feed intrigue. So, before midnight, make a pact with whoever is with you. Today we will not bring poison to this table. If someone insists, you don't need to shout. You just need to change the subject. You just need not to serve it. You serve food, but you don't serve contempt. If you are alone, make the pact with yourself. I will not start the year attacking myself. Because cruel self-criticism is a type of poison. It corrodes the body. It makes the body live in defense. Another micro-action. Take a little salt, put it on your fingertip and throw it in the kitchen trash after midnight. This is a simple gesture of discard. It means, I do not take what spoils into the new year. And then wash your hands and say, I close the door. Then, with the oil, anoint your forehead with a minimal touch and say, I accept healing. Healing is not just not having disease. Healing is having peace. Healing is sleeping. Healing is breathing. Healing is not living in alert. And you will notice that when the house has order and anointing, the body rests more. And when the body rests, health finds space again. But the fifth thing is missing, and it is the most dangerous when you ignore it. If you err on it, the others become decoration. So stay with me. This is where many lose the year in the very first month. Thing 5. A word of peace. The remedy almost no one places. Now I will say what Miguel wants you to understand, and perhaps this will hurt, because it is true. What makes you sick most after Réveillon is not food. It is words. It is atmosphere. It is stored resentment. It is irony. It is humiliation. It is contempt disguised as a joke. It is that I was just kidding that leaves a person with a tight chest. And that is why the fifth thing is not an object on the table. It is something you place on the table with your mouth. A word of peace before midnight. You can have water. You can have bread. You can have bitter. You can have salt and oil. But if you cross the portal with a poisonous word, the body will carry that poison, because the body does not separate speech from wound. It reacts. It inflames. It gets tired. It loses sleep. It loses immunity. It loses joy. And then you say the year's energy is heavy. Perhaps. But the heavy energy began in your mouth. Miguel is not accusing you. Miguel is giving you a way out. So do this. Before the countdown, choose one person. 1. You don't need to solve the whole family. You don't need to become everyone's therapist. Choose one person and place a phrase of peace on the table. Short, direct, true. You can say, I bless you. I wish you health. I don't want war with you. Let's start over. I ask your forgiveness. I forgive you. And if you can't speak, at least don't hurt. At least don't cut. At least don't be ironic, because what you say at the turn of the year becomes a seed. and a seed grows. Micro Scene 1. A man is tired. He works too much, he lives with high blood pressure. He promises he will take care of his body. At the turn of the year, he is next to his wife. She tries to talk. He responds with contempt. "You always complain." She swallows. Her chest tightens. She goes to sleep crying. In Janeiro, she gets sick. He says, "You are weak." And the war continues. Her body, which was already wounded, now carries another layer of inflammation. This is what Miguel wants to avoid. A word of peace at that table would have closed a door. Micro Scene 2. A mother misses a son who has distanced himself. She tries to hide it. At the turn of the year, someone makes a joke about disunited family. She laughs on the outside. Inside, her heart tears. In Janeiro, she loses her appetite, her sleep, her strength. She says it's age. Perhaps, but perhaps it's a repeated wound. A word of peace at that table would have been a remedy. "We will meet again. I bless my son." The mouth can heal. Micro Scene 3. A young woman is struggling with anxiety. She tells no one. At the turn of the year, she hears, "You are dramatic." She smiles, but inside, she feels invisible. In Janeiro, the anxiety explodes. She says, "I don't know why." Yes, she does. She was attacked when she most needed comfort. A word of peace at that table would have been protection. "I am with you." Simple, but powerful. Do you see? The table is an altar because it is a place where the atmosphere is served, and the atmosphere enters the body. You eat what they offer you, but you also eat the tone. You also eat the gaze. You also eat the humiliation, and that makes you sick. So before midnight, make a pact. No indirect comments, no old arguments, no fights about money, no demands, no sarcasm. If someone brings up a poisonous subject, you can say, "We'll talk later. Today I want peace," and that's it. You don't need to win a dispute. You need to protect your body and your home. Now comes the deepest part. What if you are alone? If you are alone, the fifth thing is for you to say to yourself, "I will not attack myself this year." Because there are people who cross the portal cursing themselves. "I am a failure. I am heavy. I am worthless. I never change." This is poison, and repeated poison turns into disease. Miguel asks you for a phrase. "I choose health." Say it in a low voice. Say it looking at the table. Say it looking at the glass of water. Say it with your body present, because the body needs to hear a different command. And here is the master loop I promised you. The fifth thing is dangerous when it is missing, because it decides whether the table is an altar of healing or an altar of war. Without a word of peace, the table becomes a stage, and a stage tires, and being tired makes you sick. Now I will tell you a complete micro story, because Miguel wants you to see, not just understand. There was a woman who loved to make the most beautiful table in the neighborhood. She placed fruits, flowers, candles, glasses, dishes. She took photos. She received compliments. But every turn of the year had the same poison. She provoked her sister. Small barbs, small ironies, small comments about who succeeded and who didn't. The sister laughed, but cried inside. And do you know what happened? In Janeiro, this woman began to feel a strange fatigue, body aches, inflammation, throat, fever, a heavy sadness. She said, "It must be a virus." She took medicine, but repeated the same poison. The following year, everything repeated itself, until one day she was alone in the kitchen before midnight. She looked at the table, perfect, and heard inwardly a phrase, "A beautiful table does not heal a poisonous mouth." She was startled. She breathed, and when she returned to the living room instead of the barb, she said to her sister, "I don't want this between us anymore. I bless you. I'm sorry." The sister cried. It wasn't magic. It wasn't instantaneous. But something closed. A door closed. And that Janeiro, for the first time, she did not get sick as before, because the war left the table. Do you understand? Miguel is not telling you to pretend that everything is fine. Miguel is telling you not to start the year opening doors to inflammation. And if you are thinking, "But I am right, I was hurt." Yes, perhaps you were. But being right does not heal the body. Peace heals the body. Peace is medicine that cannot be bought. Now make the final gesture of the fifth thing, Before midnight, raise the glass of water and say, "I declare peace over this table." Then, put the glass back and breathe, and say nothing more that hurts. If you do this, you are placing on the table the main ingredient of health, emotional security. And emotional security is what allows the body to rest, repair, regenerate. Without this, the body lives in defense. And a body in defense gets sicker. And now, with the 5 things revealed, I will guide you in a short, simple and powerful ritual of consecration, in 5 steps without theatrics, with truth. Now I will recapitulate so you don't get lost, because the enemy of health is confusion, and Miguel is the Prince of Order. Before midnight, glass of clean water, plus silence plus gratitude, simple bread to break and offer, a touch of bitter to remember discernment, salt and oil to seal order and healing, a word of peace to close doors of war. If you missed any, don't despair. Miguel does not demand perfection, he demands sincerity. If you don't have oil, use a little simple oil. If you don't have a bitter leaf, use a piece of lemon. If you don't have bread, use a simple cracker. Heaven is not impressed by luxury. Heaven is moved by decision. Now do the following, step by step, like a healing script. Step 1. Place your hand on your chest and ask, "What is my body carrying that is not mine?" You may not hear anything. That's fine. Just asking opens space for consciousness. Step 2. Touch the glass of water and remain silent for 20 seconds. If the noise is loud, be silent inside and say, "Thank you for life." That's all. Step 3. Break the bread. As you break it, say, "I accept to receive sustenance without destroying myself." Offer it to someone. If you are alone, offer it to heaven, and then eat a piece calmly, as someone who enters the year with respect for their own body. Step 4. Touch the bitter to your tongue and say, "Miguel, give me discernment." Then take a sip of water. And here's a secret. When the year offers you excesses, remember this gesture. Bitter and water, limits and clarity. This memory saves you from many falls. Step 5. Touch the salt and then the oil and say, "Miguel, seal this house." Make the sign discreetly, and then come to the 5th thing, the most important. Look at someone and say a word of peace. Don't expect the person to reciprocate the way you want. You are not doing it to gain. You are doing it to close a door. And if you are alone, say, "I will not attack myself this year. I choose health." Now I need to give you a final warning, because here is the point where many do everything right and still sabotage themselves. They consecrate the table, but then they open their mouth and undo it. So after the consecration, choose to guard your mouth. In the first hour of the year, do not say words of death. Do not say, "This year will be difficult." Do not say, "Nothing changes." Do not say, "I can't take it." Even if you are tired, turn it into a prayer. "Miguel, sustain me." It's different. The body feels it. And when someone comes with provocation, do not take the bait. You don't need to prove anything. Health is a treasure. Whoever protects a treasure does not get into a fight over crumbs. Microscene. Think of someone who always starts Janeiro with the flu every year. The person says it's change of weather. It may be. But observe, this person at the turn of the year spends hours in tension, argues, fights, eats too much, drinks too much, sleeps badly. And the next day the body takes its toll. It's not a mystery. It's a consequence. Miguel is giving you a way to break this cycle. Another microscene. Think of someone who starts Janeiro with stomach pain. Always. And at the turn of the year, she eats as if she were compensating for the entire year. But behind the food, there is a hole. Lack of peace. When peace is missing, the mouth tries to fill it, and the stomach becomes a deposit of anxiety. Miguel wants to heal the hole, not just control the food. Therefore, if you want health, understand, the table is not just what enters, it is what leaves. It is what you say. It is what you tolerate. It is what you allow. Now let's seal with a guided prayer. You can repeat with me in a low voice or just inwardly. Archangel Michael, commander of the army of heaven, guard my mind, guard my body, guard my sleep. I do not cross this portal in war, I cross in peace. Consecrate this table, consecrate this house, consecrate my days. May the water bring clarity and cleanliness. May the bread bring sustenance and humility. May the bitter bring discernment and limits. May the salt close the gaps of disorder. May the oil heal old wounds. And may my mouth be a source of life, not of disease. I renounce the excess that destroys me. I renounce the word that hurts. I renounce the resentment that inflames. I renounce the habit that makes me sick. And I accept health as a responsibility. Miguel, guard my house from the invisible that invades. Guard my family from useless conflict. Guard my heart from anxiety. Guard my body from the fatigue that does not pass. I declare. This year will have peace, I declare. This year will have health, I declare. This year will have order. Amen. Stay a few more seconds in silence. Feel your breath. Feel your body. Feel that you have made a conscious crossing. And now I ask you two things to seal this decision. First, write in the comments, I choose health. This is a mark. This is a testimony. This is you telling the invisible that you do not enter the year on autopilot. Second, send this video to one specific person. That person you love and who always starts the year sick, sad, irritated, without energy. Do not send to accuse. Send as care. Say, watch and do it with me before midnight. Because sometimes healing doesn't start in the hospital, it starts at the table. And remember, Miguel showed you 5 things. Don't forget the 5th, the word of peace. It is the remedy that almost no one places, and that is why almost no one understands why the body falls so early in the year. If you do this with sincerity, you are not guaranteeing a year without problems. You are guaranteeing that you will not open unnecessary doors. And closed doors are rest. Rest is health. Health is life. Before midnight, decide, and may Miguel guard your crossing.